Hi, welcome to Rick Snider's Washington on YouTube, where you get the whole story. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit the share thanks button. Give Pete some money for that. And I'm here, it's 3 guys and 2 pizzas today, here with Dave and Mike. And we're going to do the pizza shows everybody said here at Rocco's and McLean. I got to tell you, it's everything they said it would be, just looking at it. I'm making Mike, I had to handcuff him to the chair. He's okay. All right, so you can go ahead and have a piece now. I know you've been dying for this.
I'm in.
My dad used to call pictures of that
Oh, look at
Italian
that.
pornography
Look at that.
because they look so beautiful.
It's like that commercial where they pull the cheese apart, you know, wherever that thing
You're
is.
not taking my cheese, damn it.
So we go around Washington. We try great pizza, not the chains. Never going there. There isn't a good chain, I don't think, anymore. Anyway, is there?
I don't think so. But while you guys are eating casserole, I'm going to eat a piece of pizza. Okay.
And this is a Chicago. Right. So this is Chicago. And this one's called, what is it? Gondola.
The gondola, right?
Gondola.
Yes.
So a little bit of everything. I like deep dish better than regular, but let me get my knife and fork out here so I can eat
Here we
it.
go.
I was just going to get the napkin and throw the silverware away.
What, I don't use my fork on this?
Yeah, when you're eating broccoli, but not when you're eating pizza.
I was starting with this because geography, Chicago was closer to me.
All right.
And this is also when Andy Reid won the Super Bowl, he went out and had a pizza that was sausage and cheese and mushroom, which this is. And I believe my dog predicted that, and you lost.
Every dog has his day.
Trash talk already.
Yeah, here we go. All right, so let's
Do
try
I
this.
have some Parmesan here, Dave?
You need more. You need more cheese on this?
Yes, I
Can
do.
you warm up
Yeah.
the defibrillator for me? Plug it in.
I have the app here on my phone.
All right,
Here we go.
see the shocking. All right. All right.
What do you think?
This is like food porn. Maybe I can really have my OnlyFans show I talked about.
This
The
is
one-
First Division pizza.
One thing that hits you is just how thick the cheese is.
Yeah.
It's a very good cheesy pizza. If you like a sweet pizza, this is more rustic. This is more basil and oregano and those sorts of things in the background. So.
Yeah, it's I mean, this has got all the cheese you can handle and more. And one of the regulars here told me, don't get more than 2 toppings because you don't want to overwhelm the cheese. So that was a veteran tip somebody told me about.
Just good scouting there.
Yeah, you have to, pizza's important here. I mean, there isn't a chain anymore that I really like. Even Lido's, I've kind of gotten about it.
Yeah.
It's just, they're all so manufactured that I can't really enjoy too many of them.
Yeah.
We're going to do the Stained Glass Pub in Rockville probably next time. It's a lot like this one here. But you have to have the best pizza. I have so many people out there watching me when these shows. Like I did an upside down cake the other day, pineapple upside down. People wanted to know if I started baking shows. I mean, I said, yeah, we'll call it Half Baked with Rick. I do have a chef certificate, by the way. I did cook at a restaurant for 3 years.
Here's the veteran move, though. I keep eating while they talk.
Yeah, that is the way to do it.
I would like a shout out to my local pizza joint, Pomodoro's, recently closed there in the Fair Oaks area. The Fair Oaks area of Fairfax, where I live in Fair Woods. Nothing's great, everything's just fair, but we're okay over there. But our local pizza joint in the strip mall closed, and as sports writers here, this had a special connection to me because I used to run into Jim Larinaga there all the time, from George Mason at the time, of course, and he was trying to get a little out of the way and get away from campus and not be spotted by everybody. Here was a stupid sports writer that was always eating there with him, and that came off to pay because now I cover Miami's for some preview magazines, and he always asks me about Pomodoro's. I hate this year when I'm going to have to break the news to him this summer that Pomodoro's is gone.
Because there's a place across the street from the campus arena that everybody goes to. I forget the name.
Brian's is
Yes.
the local hangout bar.
Yeah.
Yes, I know all these places. Thank you.
I covered the region championship when they beat Connecticut.
Don't ask us about
By
any
pure
gyms or
chance.
anything like that.
I did too, by pure chance.
Were you there? My pure chance were there, and I'm thinking, my God, I'm watching Hoosiers, right in front of us. And then Connecticut got 6 guys that go to the pros. Mason never had anybody go to the pros in that game.
But that was the beginning of what we now see in college basketball, where you keep a team together for 3-4 years, you got so much better of a squad than you do with the rapid turnover at the higher level. I was covering for Host Communications. I had to write a preview of the winner of that regional for the Final Four the next weekend. I had 800 words in the can about Connecticut. I'm like, oh wait, this isn't going to be Connecticut, is it?
Well,
And I
but they
had to-
caught them and went into overtime, so you figure, okay, they blew it. And they
Yeah.
did. And Connecticut had a great team with everybody.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that was one of the people asked me. I've been doing this 45 years. I'm now the longest running sports writer. And you know,
Spencer with a cameo on the show.
I did. I'm 45 years in the city here, and I cover ball. I would be one of my top 10 memories of covering sports.
Right, and I wrote such a good lead for that story that I got asked back for years to write things for Host Communications in the NCAA tournament program, and the lead was about George Mason. Cinderella got invited to the big dance, and she just would not go home.
There you go. Pro tips writing. I think I wrote George Mason beat Connecticut 70-67 and everything.
AP, very good.
I don't really remember.
I'm always
Yeah,
proud
thank
of
you.
those too.
Well, while we're talking about things that happened 1,000 years ago, let's stop and raise a glass to Mr. Lerner for his passing
oh.
away. And
Yes.
my
Yeah.
dream was to always be at a World Series in Washington,
Yeah.
and he made it happen. You may not have different opinions on how he ran the baseball team, but for one shining night,
Yeah.
World Series.
What a great memory for this. I moved up to DC in the late 90s, and this is the one team I got to get on board at the very beginning with. And what a great ride it's been. Don't want to talk about what's going on now, but
Yeah. I know last year was like they had the Caribbean All-Star team, and not even the good one. And I thought, who are all these guys? And it just, wow, that thing went from championships to nothing.
they
It
were
was-
hard to
it
watch.
was-
And we didn't get the celebratory year because of
I know.
COVID. So we really got the rug pulled out from under us here. And just to see all our stars on the other teams, that the guys we saw come in as rookies and, you know, help build the level of play they had, which was just so amazing to win that World Series. And again, for me, it was so special seeing it through my friends' eyes who had baseball ripped away from them when they were younger here.
Right.
That was what made me a fan right from the get-go. I was so happy for maybe people like you guys that got to see baseball come back here in this area.
Because I used to go too.
In 1977, when the Bullets won the NBA championship, I was sitting
Where's
with a
the
close
game?
friend at Virginia Tech, and we said one day they're going to be in the World Series and we're going to be there. And we were both in our 60s, and I have this big picture that I value, but it's me and him standing in the stands with the outfield behind us, and the World Series was going on.
Yeah, I mean, my dad would take me to RFK in the early days, back in the mid-'60s when I was a kid. My dad loved baseball. I thought football was stupid. I can only wonder what he'd think about my career. But my dad was a 6'5" left-handed first baseman, played a year in the Yankees organization, and realized he wasn't good enough, and gave it up smartly. But we would go. I mean, he loved it. Frank Howard was his favorite player. I remember walking through tunnel from lot 8. And, you know, as a kid, you go through this tunnel and it was so jammed and everybody's mooing and my dad would yell, damn drunks and all that stuff. When I finally started covering the Redskins as an adult, I walked through that tunnel. It's like, wow. I recognized it, but it was so different as, you know, 30 versus 6. You know, but my dad loved to sit in the upper deck because it was the cheapest seats. And, you know, we used to pay $2 or something for the upper deck seats. And I go, Dad, why can't we sit down lower? And he goes, the seats aren't any better. So when I took my own kids to the Nats games, we sat in the $5 seats in the corners. And they go, why can't we sit down there? I said, those aren't any good. You know, so I did the same thing to them. You know, in baseball. I liked going to RFK better for the baseball first 2 years.
Yeah, I did too.
It was a great stadium
Yes.
to watch baseball.
Yes,
in.
in some ways more user-friendly in a lot of ways.
Just had an atmosphere about it.
Right,
We
right.
were nostalgic and
And
everything.
just the joy of having it back in DC at that time.
I mean, it smelled like wet dog, but it was all
well, right.
Yeah.
I always like sitting in center field, and here's the hard to believe portion of it. That's because I used to play center field, and of course, by the time I got to college, beer and pizza, you know, ended a promising career as one of the great.
The cat like quick just goes away.
Well, I was one of the of my generation, one of the great good field no pitch softball players of all time. So.
I actually got to be in a major league tryout camp. I sucked, and I had but it was a chance to go. They had a regional tryout camp. They bring in players in,
Oh, for all the organizations?
Yeah. And I was playing, I was like, I was 18, just finished playing. We used to have like Legion ball, Babe Ruth ball, stuff like that. And I was an okay outfielder. That's all I was. I had no arm, I had no speed, but I got to go. And the nice scout, a guy named Joe Consoli, passed away a few years ago. He was a really good, well-known scout. And he said, well, I'd like to, talk about the positive and your speed. And I'm like, let's just stop there. If you're talking about speed, my best asset, hey, dude, this body's meant to fight, not to run. But it was fun to go, and just try and...
One-tool player is what you're telling us.
Half a tool probably, but but I love baseball. I would have played baseball year round back then if they had fall baseball, like they do now. Well, back then we did.
While we're talking about disasters, what's going to happen with the pro football team in terms of its offensive coordinator or its head coach or anything like that?
Well, no, I will say I wrote about in I write up 1067 The Fan, Odyssey.com today. I wrote about Josh Harris maybe buying the team. And I looked up his thing. He owns Chuck E. Cheese. That's one of their things that they own. They paid $1 billion for Chuck E. Cheese. So I guess in the men's, forget Major Tuddy, we're going to have Chucky as our new mascot.
Staying on a theme
if they
here.
get it. I think he might be the one. I don't know who Bezos is going to be.
I don't know what Bezos is.
I don't quite. And there's a mystery bidder out there, and it's been acknowledged there's one, although he may be faked, because you put up another guy to have a fake bid. But I can feel it as a reporter. There's somebody I can't see that's somehow out there. And maybe that's Bezos that I'm seeing the reflection of. Somebody's out there. But, it's going to happen pretty soon. I don't see Bieniemy doing it, which, watch, he'll get announced before I do this, host the show. But I don't know. I think he'd stay in Kansas City first. There's so much uncertainty here, including your quarterback. Why would you come here? You can only look bad.
Unless whoever the owner is ordains you and says, here's a blank check. Now
Well,
go
it
fix
could
this.
be. And it's possible, but he's not. They got to make that decision this week, for Bieniemy. And then the owner's not going to be around. I know Sean Payton said, hey, people approach me and ask, but it's really down to a couple guys. I mean, Harris, maybe Bezos if he's really there. Might be about it. I don't think it's going to go for as much money. Snider ruined the product. So you're buying and there's other things to consider. The 200 acres at FedEx, whose is that? Do you rent this stadium for a few years until you build your own? What happens to the Ashburn, which they're building monoliths out in Ashburn. Everybody's building process, servers there. I mean, my God, it's like pyramids are around you out there. And then, and what happens to
We like it that way too, by the way.
what happens to the sports betting license? It's in Snider's name. Is he keeping that? That's at that. I mean, all these things are in play for the price and all that. So, all right, well, we got to go already. This is how the show goes that quick. Great pizza here at Rocco's. Definitely come on out to McLean and eat here. These guys, they're paying, so I'm just eating. I'm going to take one home.
Don't eat with a knife and fork like this guy either, okay?
Well,
Great.
I will say,
The crust is great, and we've got a lot of crust here today. So.
old crusty people. So, yeah, this is it's better than the ones I went to Rome and had pizza. I was really psyched, man, when I was in Italy. I like our pizza better. Hate to tell you.
I'll have to disagree with you on that.
No, I didn't get to go to Napa. But anyway, I'm Rick Snider for Rick Snider's Washington. Thanks for coming. We'll see you at another pizza place.